I don't see them sustaining this. I mean, they're pitching on their mind right now. So we'll see. I mean, Philadelphia on paper has got a better rotation. Atlanta has been beat up. We'll see what happens if Strider gets there. So obviously, the Diamondbacks have good rotation. So the Dodgers when they're healthy. So I just don't see him sustaining this.
It's time for Sportsnaut's MLB podcast. Big League Buzz, news and interviews from around the majors. Here's your host, Scott Gulbranson.
All right, welcome back, everybody. It's time for another edition of Big League Buzz, your MLB podcast from us here, your family at Sportsnaut. We appreciate you being with us. A reminder, if you haven't already subscribed to the podcast, do so wherever you get your audio. Just look for Big League Buzz from Sportsnaut. Then hit that auto download button. That way, every time we have a new episode, guess what? You're going to get it right to wherever you listen to it. We're available wherever you get your podcast. Also, if you want to watch us, you can do that too. We have a video version and the podcast version up on YouTube. Just go look for the Sportsnaut channel and you can sign up for the Big League Buzz podcast there. Don't forget to rate and review. Give us a positive if you would, a thumbs up. Also, don't forget to subscribe, hit the notifications bell on YouTube too. So we appreciate that very much. Scott Gulbranson back with you. And guess what? We're going to talk about some baseball as we always do here because it's baseball. And as much as I love everything from F1 to the NFL, baseball is our national pastime. It always will be. It continues to be. And I love talking baseball with you. One thing I want to talk about, we're going to get to Bob Nightengale, the great Bob Nightengale, of course, columnist now at USA Today. Also, MLB Insider. You can see him pretty much everywhere. Great knowledge. We're going to talk to him today about the NL East, the Mets, the Braves, the fighting Phils in Philadelphia, and of course, you have the Washington Nationals, that young squad surprising people as well. So we're going to talk to Bob about the NL East, where it's at right now, and how sustainable it is for some. Look, Juan Soto's not even hitting for the Mets. Is that going to make a difference when he starts hitting? You betcha it will. So we'll get it right from Bob Nightengale in our second segment. In this first segment, though, I just kind of call it our leadoff segment. We just talk about things that are happening, and this jumped out at me. I don't know if you saw this, but you can find the story. It's linked below in the description on both the podcast and the video from sportsnaut.com. Our own Rusty Weiss wrote about it. The Guardians and we're hosting the Red Sox. And all-star Jarren was there and got a little upset because we had a fan, if you want to call it that, a fan of the Guardians. I have to stop saying Indians because I keep saying Indians. The fan of the Cleveland Guardians started heckling him. Now, heckling in sports, I'm okay with heckling in sports if it's well-natured, if it doesn't bother those people around you, if it's not offensive, whether it's racial, whatever it is. But because I've done my fair share of it as a younger guy. But I will tell you, this was different. The fan reportedly said something to Duran that crossed the line. And what happened was, if you didn't know this, but there was a Netflix documentary where Duran talked about in 2022 almost committing suicide, right? Which is not a joking matter. It's a serious issue, mental health. Clearly something that happens to a lot of us. But the comments from the fan in the stands mention this. And based on the report from Will Middlebrooks, who's an analyst for NESN, who's the broadcast channel for the Red Sox, he was told, quote, they told him he should have killed himself when he had the chance. Okay. So knowing the background here, knowing the docuseries called The Clubhouse, A Year with the Red Sox, and knowing that he shared this, it made big news last year, right? Because he shared this very something personal, very opening, and a very vulnerable thing for a baseball player to do. But he felt it was important to do that because he knows people struggle with it. And here's a guy who was major leagues thinking about ending his life. So that's where we're at. So clearly nothing to do. Now, I have people who are defending this scumbag in the stands who said, you should have killed yourself. You would have been better off. And here's my point. We all love sports. We're all fanatics. The fans is short for fanatics. Okay? Whether it's baseball I cover, whether it's football, I cover the Raiders and football. So it's an extremely ravenous fan base. But That's fine, but there is a line. What is wrong with sports culture these days that we're crossing these lines that should not be crossed, right? This is not something you say to somebody anytime, even if you're standing in front of them. Of course, sit in the stands, you don't think a player's going to come up to you. And Duran did. He had to be physically restrained. And I don't blame him in this case, right? Having gone through that and how emotional and destructive thoughts of suicide can be for somebody. This is just too much. And listen, I'm sure the guy got kicked out. He might be banned forever. And I think that what compounds this too is, if you remember, Duran had to do a public apology because he had said some terms that were deemed by some to be anti-gay or at least offensive to the gay community. So he apologized to that. So there's a little history. He has his own history with making comments, but that doesn't excuse it. What my grandmother taught me, right? One wrong doesn't make a right, and you can't make two wrongs right either. So I'd love to hear your comments on this. What do you think about this? I just think it's ridiculous. And you have every right to go to a game and do what you want. You can tell a guy, I hope you strike out, you stink, whatever. That's fine. That's just in the history of sports, it's always been done. But these crossing the lines, we see this in social media. Because I'm a member of the media, you wouldn't believe the stuff I get sent my way. Hateful, destructive comments from people who don't even know you, other than maybe they saw your video or they read a story you wrote. People need to find and check on themselves, right? They need to check themselves at the door and ask yourselves, is this something you would say to somebody's face, eye to eye? Because no matter how much we love sports, there's just some activities and some things that are unacceptable, and this was clearly one of them. So we'll keep a close eye on this one, but I just wanted to get that off the top because it was on my chest here. I just want to get it off my chest. It's just crazy that this even happens today. And you see in Europe with Premier League soccer and all the racial slurs that are thrown out at players there. This happens all over the world. Different types of insults in different places. But clearly, if you're taking sports that seriously and you want to tell somebody to kill themselves, that person has their own problems they got to deal with. But anyway, so I just want to talk about that. A lot of other things going on, but now we're going to get into the NL East, which has been so much fun to watch. And boy, the Mets got off to a quick start, even without Juan Soto getting off to a quick start. He's performing more like a human being than some super alien baseball player from wherever. So we're going to get on next after the break. We're going to get on with Bob Nightengale, who joins us. We're going to talk about the NL East. Who's going to sustain, who's going to fall back, and what can these teams do in order to win out in this tough division. All right, you are with Big League Buzz MLB podcast from Sportsnaut. We're coming back right after these messages. Welcome back to segment 2 of the Big League Buzz podcast. And joining me now, one of the great writers out there, that's Bob Nightengale. Of course, he's a columnist for USA Today, also MLB Insider. And Bob, I want to talk to you today about the NL East. We look at the Mets sitting atop of the division there with Juan Soto seemingly human at this point at the plate, not what we expect out of his MVP level. But when you look at Soto, what's expected out of him, and you look at this Mets ball club, how much is their success going to be coupled with Juan Soto kind of being Juan Soto moving forward?
Well, the pitching's been the surprising thing. They didn't spend much money at all in pitching, and the rotation has been the best in baseball. Without two key guys. So I don't think anybody saw that happening. That's the biggest surprise. Soto, you see free agents all the time. When they switch teams, they struggled that first year. So if this goes on all year, I wouldn't be surprised at all. It just, guys put so much pressure on themselves. I know he played in New York, but still trying to live up to that contract. You see it over and over again, particularly early on. So he may step it up later on, but a lot of times it just takes a while to get acclimated.
Yeah, and with that pace, you're talking about that pitching staff with the Mets, which, yes, a surprise to everyone. Are you confident? I mean, it's early. It's only been a month. Of course, it's a long season. But when you look at that staff, you think they're going to be able to sustain this moving forward? Are the Mets going to make some more moves? What do you think is going to happen with that staff?
I don't see them sustaining this. I mean, they're pitching on their mind right now. So we'll see. I mean, Philadelphia on paper has got a better rotation. Atlanta has been beat up. We'll see what happens as Strider gets there. So obviously, the Diamondbacks have good rotation. So the Dodgers when they're healthy. So yeah, I just don't see him sustaining this. But like you said, other guys can step up. Whether it's a Soto and some of the other pieces, Vientos, should step up and be a better hitter to kind of make up for the ERA that should start to go up.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch and see what they do. Now, you mentioned the Phillies. So we go to the Phillies, and they have bullpen problems, right? They have the second worst ERA in baseball. And you look at that. Are they primed to make a trade? They're talking about Helsley out there as a guy that I've heard about, that I think even you've talked about in the past. But when you look at that Philly club and that bullpen, how big of it is a problem for them with that division and how it's stacking up?
Yeah, it needs to step up. I mean, Alvarado throws hard. Romano, I mean, Blue Jays non-tendered him. So you kind of question, like, okay, how good is this guy going to be? But it seems like of all Dave Dombrowski's teams, he's won a couple championships. The bullpen has always seemed to haunt him. He just never had that guy. And they still don't really have that guy. I think Helsley could be that guy from St. Louis, maybe somebody else. There's probably only a handful of, shutdown closers, but the Phillies don't have one, and you need one come playoff time.
Yeah, and one of the things that they keep talking about, the Phillies don't want to part with some of this young talent like Painter and Miller, some of these guys. Does that mean that, I mean, that's going to limit them, isn't it?
It will, because they don't have a deep farm system whatsoever. I mean, some people think that Miller might be Painter might be the guy that closes out games, come October. We'll see. Or, he goes to rotation, use a starter to close out. And the Red Sox did that with Chris Hill that year. We started and also pitched in the pen on the off day. So it can happen. But yeah, I agree. I mean, they're not going to trade either one of those guys. Teams have asked, and they said no.
Right. And then you look, we go down to Atlanta. Of course, the Braves were picked to win this division by many, and clearly they've had injury issues. But past that, do you see any concern there? Are the Braves going to be able to, once they can, if they can, get healthy in some of those key spots? Are they going to be able to be there when we're talking here late summer, early into the fall?
They should be. I mean, they're always an aggressive team. The Profar injury, or not Profar, the suspension set them back big time. What's it going to look like come back in July? They got lucky with Alex Verdugo, signed for $1.5 million. He's been very good so far. So the team was a hitting. Now they're starting to hit. They're starting to play better. Strider's injury was a hamstring. It wasn't an arm injury. So I think they'll still be knocking the door for at least a playoff spot, come September.
Yeah, and you talked about the Mets and this incredible start that they've had, of course. But when you look at the dynamics in this division, and we just went through some of the issues and some of the things that these teams need to work on, how do you see those dynamics working out through the rest of the year? I mean, is there anything that's concerning, any red flags for some of these teams that you think might be just a little much to come over?
Yeah, I mean, I think Atlanta, just with the injuries, Chris Sale has just been okay. You need him to step up. And they didn't really do much in the offseason. Our big move was, Profar. So red flags right there. You don't know if Profar's going to come back, what he's going to look like, that sort of thing. Phillies with a bullpen, they came back with the same team they've had. That same team they've had has underachieved, particularly come playoff time. So it'll be interesting. I think they're going to be very aggressive at the trade deadline. I think they have no choice, because I think for them it's almost like World Series or bust. Maybe even more so than the Mets.
Yeah, and then for those Washington National fans out there, boy, I've been impressed with some of their young talent. When I look at it, I see clearly this is a team that's young, that's rebuilding and trying to get more competitive in a tough division. What about the Nats? Talk to me about some of their surprise starts and what they've been able to do thus far in the 2025 season.
Yeah, I mean they're coming, and they're like like a year or two away. They got made a great trade for the Soto trade. I mean, Soto wasn't going to help them win. The pieces they got, Abrams and Wood and everything else is going to help. They really haven't spent any money, so I think maybe a year from now, next winter, the ownership might say, you know what, you're close enough. Let's start spending. So no, they're knocking the door. I like what they've done, and I think Matt Rizzo is one of the best GMs in the game.
And Bob, we talk here about the NL East, but a lot of talk too about the NL West and how that's been tighter than people expected even early on. The Dodgers were kind of crowned before the season even began. But you look at the NL West versus the NL East. I still think the NL East is better. Those three top teams just seem to be stronger. I mean, yes, the Padres, the Dodgers, and now the Giants have been playing out of their head too on the NL West. But when you look at those two divisions, are you on that side with me that the NL East is a little bit better, or are these two divisions similar?
Yeah, no, I'm actually on the other side of it. I think that
Are you?
actually West is the best division in baseball. I think it's like the old AL East. And when
Uh-huh.
you have the Dodgers, the Padres, Diamondbacks are a good team. Giants have been playing very well. Last year, that National League West was so strong. I'm not sure the Yankees would have finished higher than fourth. They were in the World Series. Diamondbacks, you look at that rotation when you're throwing out, guys like you know, you know, all their studs. I mean, Brandon Pfaadt was supposed to be the number 5 guy. He's been their ace so far, and on and on. The Padres, they could have easily won the World Series last year. They had the Dodgers on the ropes that first round, up 2-1. Then they go into Game 4 at Petco. Then lost Game 5 at Dodger Stadium, and the Giants. Buster Posey at the helm now. Very formidable team. I didn't see that one coming, but I think 1 through 4, very, very strong. The fifth one's obviously a big drop off of the Rockies. You'll take the Marlins over the Rockies.
Yeah, exactly. Man, they're tough to watch. I feel bad for their folks out in Denver. But Bob, great full circle moment for me, by the way. Grew up in San Diego, so I read your time there when you were reporting on the Padres for the Times, and then I moved to Cincinnati all these years later when your son was still here. I know he's up in Minnesota now, so I get to read Nightengale whatever city I live in, which is pretty cool. So I appreciate the time today, and we'll catch up with you later in the season. Make sure you follow Bob, by the way, on X at @bnightingale. My friend, thank you so much for being with us. All right, welcome back. And again, thank you to Bob Nightengale for joining us. He's been with us a few times. Always great insight from one of the best senior writers out there. Of course, you can catch his stuff at bnightingale on x.com. Also, USA Today is where you can catch his writing. Some good stuff up there about all that we talked about. He's written about the NL East. He disagreed with me. I thought the NL East is a little better, right? And we just talked to Tom Verducci, who you'll hear from about the NL West, and he thinks the NL West is better. I think the NL East is better because I think 1 through 3, they're better. I just don't believe in the Giants yet. Now, they proved me wrong before, but I think you have the Padres and Dodgers, and the Diamondbacks will actually be the third team there. And I think when you look at the other division, if you're looking at the Mets, the Phillies, and the Braves, I think those 3 teams are going to be better than the top 3 teams in the NL West. I could be wrong. Tell me what you think. Always leave it in the comments. Give it to me. Tell me what you think and which one you think is best, NL East or NL West. Put your own team feelings aside. If you're a NL East fan or an NL West fan, really look at it and tell me what you think. But anyway, I want to thank you guys for being with us. You got to do us a favor, though. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast. You can not only watch us on YouTube, but you can also get it wherever you get your audio. Are you an Apple Podcast person? Do you go with Spotify? Do you listen on Amazon Music? Hey, Alexa, play Big League Buzz, right? Wherever you get it, you're going to find it there, folks. iHeartRadio, Odyssey app, you can get the podcast everywhere. So we ask that you do that. Don't forget to rate and review as well. We love to see those comments and your opinions. And we will be back soon with another conversation about Major League Baseball. Yes, it's baseball season all the way to November, folks. And I'm in for all of it, and we hope that you are. Again, do us a favor. Make sure you subscribe. Check out sportsnaut.com. Links to articles mentioned are below, as well as other items that you might be interested in. Until next time, make sure you keep swinging for the fences. I'm Scott Gulbransen. We'll see you next time.